Hello, third graders. I have found that in life I make a lot of estimates all of the time. Like I pull money out of my pocket and I'll say, oh, I've got about $5. Or my kids will ask how far we have to go when we're hiking. And I'll say, well, we've got about a mile and a half to go. Estimates are when you're not giving an exact amount. You're kind of giving a general or close amount of what you have in your pocket or how far you have to go on your hike. You use estimates a lot in life, a lot more than you realize, and maybe this lesson will make you think about all the different times you use estimates in your world. But a lot of third grade standards actually have to do with practicing making estimation. And so the lesson that we're doing today is about rounding numbers, and rounding is a form of estimation. So our math focus today is I can round numbers to the nearest 10,000. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at how to round numbers. So let's look at the definition of rounding numbers first. It's way down here, so I'm going to grab it. So rounding a whole number. When you're rounding a whole number, you're finding to the nearest 10, 100, 1,000, and so on. So say if I had the number 7 and I wanted, or if I had the number, let's say 27, and I wanted to round to the nearest 10. Is 27 closer to 20 or is it closer to 30? 27 is a lot closer to 30, and you'd be able to see that if you had a number line. And we'll be looking at number lines in a few days, but before that, I want to show you exactly the process you need to do to round a number. Now, if you're doing your homework today and you forget, don't worry, I actually printed out a sheet on your attachments that shows like exactly the steps you need to do to round a number. But it is important you pay attention now, because oftentimes you learn things a little bit better if you're hearing it from your teacher. So I had the definition right up here. To round a number is to find the nearest 10, 100, 1,000, or 10,000. Now, when you get asked on tests to say round to a certain amount, it's always going to change. So that's really important that you're paying attention first to really thinking about what are they asking me to round to. Are they asking me to round to the nearest 10? Are they asking me to round to the nearest 100? Or are they asking me to round to the nearest 1,000? So really making sure you're double checking by reading those directions and making sure that you're following them. So the first thing you do is you underline the digit that needs to be rounded. So I decided here I was going to round the number 5,862 to the hundreds place, okay? So the first thing I did is I underlined the 8 that's in the hundreds place. So this is why it's really important also to know your different place values. So number 2 is you draw an arrow to the digit to the right of the place that you're rounding. So I know I'm rounding to the hundreds place, which I underlined with the 8. Then I drew this handy little arrow over to the digit to the right. So it's the place value that's 1 less. Okay? So really what you're thinking to yourself when you're rounding 5,862, you're wondering yourself, am I rounding to 5,800 or am I rounding to 5,900? What's closer, 5,800 or 5,900 when I have 5,862. So I've underlined that hundreds place because that's what we're rounding to, and I've drawn an arrow to the lower place value because that's what's going to determine what I'm going to do with this number. So number 3 is if the place value is 5 or more, the one that you're rounding, the digit should be rounded goes up by 1. Okay, so I can see right here that the place value to the right is a 6. So that means that the 8, this 8 right here that we're rounding, is going to turn into a 9. However, if the place value is a 4 or below, the digit to be rounded stays the same. Okay, so we're not going to do anything with it. So I can see here that because the digit next to the 8 is a 6, that it's 5 or more, so I'm going to give it a shove up 1. So instead, I know that when we round 5,862 to the nearest hundreds place value, it rounds up to 5,900, okay? So then what happens after that for number 4, it says all the place values to the right of the number to be rounded turn into 0. So the 5 stays the same, the 8 turns into that 9 because of the 6. But then the other two place values right there, they turn into a zero. So really remember, as you're rounding numbers, you want to think to yourself, is this number closer to this number or this number? Really try to picture that in your mind, because making a good estimate is what great mathematicians do. And you're one of them. Have a great day, third graders.